Hey all, welcome to another episode of Howling with the Wolf. Thanks for joining me today. A few topics definitely want to go into. If you're new joining, thanks for joining. I'm Cameron Wolf. I want to talk about Patriots week. Big week for the Dolphins with Tom Brady and the Patriots coming to town. Obviously, there hasn't been a lot of success with the Patriots here, so I'll briefly talk about that and where we go from there. Xavien Howard, this has been a big news week for Xavien Howard, who ended up being the AFC Defensive Player of the Week with 2 interceptions. But then he got injured, and it's looking like he's not going to play. So we're going to discuss that. And I want to discuss Washington's decision not to sign Colin Kaepernick and their reasoning to do so. So those are going to be my three big topics for today. Give you a prediction, and then we're going to go ahead and head on to the week. So as always, if you guys want to go ahead and fire away questions in the chat, go ahead. And if not, then I'll just go ahead and talk about some of the topics that I already discussed. So first, for everybody that's a Dolphins fan, everybody that's not, Patriots week is probably one of the bigger weeks of the season. They got blown out earlier in the season in New England, but they won 4 of their last 5 games in Miami against the Patriots. It's one of the more puzzling stats. Brady is 7-9 in Miami here. He's 2-6 in games in December or January, and you try to figure out why. Why is Tom Brady and the Patriots always seem to struggle in New England? And I kind of did a story about that came on ESPN.com today. Talked to Teddy Bruschi, who played for the Patriots for a while, works for us now with ESPN. I talked and we heard Tom Brady on the radio the other day talk about it. And the common denominator is that the heat and the humidity does have a factor. It's going to be 83 degrees in Miami on Sunday is what it's expected to be. Thunderstorms, a little bit of humidity. So it could be a heat factor again, but right now that's what the Dolphins are probably betting on. Adam Gase and Ryan Tannehill talked about it this week about how northern teams coming down south often have issues with the conditioning. We've seen it time and time again. And the problem with teams facing Miami in December is that it doesn't get colder. It's 80 degrees every day out here. So I think that's one thing to watch. How do the Patriots respond to that? My feeling is that they've done it a few times, and they're probably tired of hearing people talk about how they struggle in Miami and how the heat's a factor and all these different things. So I don't know how much that's going to be a weakness for them this week, but I do think that it's going to be important for Miami to try to utilize their ability to no huddle, to run things fast rhythm, and to see if that's going to be something that they can use to their advantage, because they don't have a ton of advantages in this game, particularly with one Xavien Howard seeming unlikely to play. And that's what I'm going to go with for my next topic. Xavien Howard has been the Dolphins' best player this season. I don't think that's a stretch to say. I think all Dolphins fans will probably agree that he's having a Pro Bowl, All Pro season. And he obviously has played a big part in a Dolphins victory in New England last season. But for some reason, not for some reason, but he's injured this week. Suffered a knee injury last week against the Bills, and it's not looking like he's going to play this week. They're still, they haven't officially ruled him out, but he hasn't been in practice over the last couple of weeks. So it's looking like, okay, they're going to have to do this without Xavien Howard. That makes it a little bit tougher. Your star player is not there against Tom Brady. The route to beating Tom Brady always has and always will be getting pressure on him and forcing turnovers. That's what we saw from the Broncos 2 years in the Super Bowl. They sort of put this formula out, and now the Dolphins will have to do it with a pass rush that hasn't been able to get home and a cornerback in Xavien Howard who's not going to be playing. So you're going to have to see a lot of Torrey McTyer, a lot of Bobby McCain trying to overcome this. And that's going to be something the Patriots will obviously exploit. Bill Belichick was extremely praiseworthy of Xavien Howard, and he knows how big of a weakness this will be for the Patriots if he's not able to play. So, like it's looking like. So that's something that's really bad news for Miami, not only for this week, but for the future. As far as how will it affect Xavien Howard, I did a story earlier this week, if you guys look on ESPN.com, on Xavien Howard and exactly what he's looking at for the future as far as money. He's ready for that pay bag. It's the end of his third year. He has an opportunity to get an extension after this season, and I'm sure there will be some conversations. If you follow sort of local media, local Dolphins news, you saw that he switched agents to Demarius Bilbo, the guy who was Jarvis Landry's agent. I actually heard about that about a month and a half ago when I was working on my big Xavien story. I don't think that means a ton, other than Dolphins fans are like, a little bit scared. Ultimately, it's a business, and I think that whether it's his agent whether it's the Dolphins, they all understand the circumstance, and if they want a deal to be done, then I think that they'll work together to get a deal done. So I wouldn't trip too much about that, but I think it is going to be interesting to see how aggressive they are in trying to get an Xavien extension. I think that he's going to want top tier elite cornerback money, and that typically means 12, 13, 14 million a year. So they're going to have to be ready to fork over some cash if he's going to be a big part of their future. So that's something to watch for the offseason, but they're going to have to figure out a way to get it done this week without him. So a lot of pressure on Bobby McCain, a lot of pressure on Torrey McTyer to give them some extra boost in that cornerback room. And of course, they're going to have to stop the run, which has been a problem all season. So like I said, as always, if you guys want to ask some questions, fire away in the chat. I'm going to go ahead and switch over to a big general NFL topic. I know a lot of people, have different opinions on this particular topic, but I do want to discuss Washington and Colin Kaepernick as well as Reuben Foster. Washington sort of made some waves this week by signing Reuben Foster after he was released by the 49ers for his domestic violence incident. And then, obviously with Colt McCoy already out, Mark Sanchez getting injured out for the season. Colt McCoy getting injured out for the season, Mark Sanchez in there, and now they need another quarterback. And they mentioned that they thought about Colin Kaepernick, but they didn't bring him in because he didn't fit the system. I'm here to call BS on that. I have seen what Washington runs. I've seen what Alex Smith plays. Alex Smith used to be with Colin Kaepernick with the 49ers, and the 49ers actually had a system very similar that they put in for Colin Kaepernick, and he ran it really well on short-term notice. So I think it's pretty clear what's happening here, whether it's the Washington football team or another football team. When they lose a quarterback, they decide that the media attention or the pressure that comes with signing Colin Kaepernick is not worth making their football team better. So whether you agree or do not agree, I just hope that, teams at some point will be honest with what it is. If you're not signing Colin Kaepernick, if you don't want him on your football team because you're worried about the distraction, what it can do for you money-wise, and the overall reaction to it from your franchise basis, then say that. Don't pretend that he can't fit the scheme. Don't pretend that, he's not as good of a football player as Mark Sanchez or Josh Johnson. All that stuff is really, demeaning to, not demeaning, but like it's plain dumb to a fan base that knows what's going on. So that's sort of my thoughts on that. It's always puzzling when I hear that sort of thing, but that's what we're seeing right now with Washington. So hopefully, we see teams being more honest. I don't know if Colin Kaepernick will ever get a job in this league, but he's certainly better than a lot of the quarterbacks that we have in here. So that's my thoughts on that. You guys are kind of quiet today, so I'm just going to go ahead and flow through and go ahead and give you guys my predictions, and we'll go ahead through the next week. So my prediction for this week, unfortunately, Dolphins fans, is that it's going to be a loss, and I think it could potentially be ugly. 38-13, New England Patriots is what I have for this week. I think that the Patriots are, like I said earlier, going to be a little bit frustrated and tired of hearing about how the Dolphins have so much success against them in Miami, and I think they're going to want to show up and show out in a big way, and I think they do. I think they have a lot of success on the ground with Sony Michel and James White and Rex Burkhead, and I think that Josh Gordon has a lot of success in the passing game as well. So this is going to be a tough one for Dolphin fans, in my opinion. The playoff hunt, obviously, they're 6-6. They still got a chance, but it's going to be a lot tougher if they don't beat the Patriots. This is the one where they got to find a way to have if they want to make something happen come playoff time. So I'll answer a question from Lewis, and then I'll go ahead and get my X factors. Lewis has said, unfortunately, I don't believe he will get a job in the NFL. As a current vet, I'd probably stand in the corner of Cap. That's a take that I think a lot of people in America probably need to hear more of, Lewis. I know I talked to Kenny Stills a lot about this because of his beliefs and his protests. But there are a lot of veterans, there are a lot of police officers that do agree with the protests, and I think that we sort of lump everybody in the same group. So I think that we're a little bit more nuanced in America than more people think, and that what your disagreements are should impact a person's job, like we're seeing with Colin Kaepernick. And your other question, Lewis asks, is Xavien Howard this year's Kevin Byard? Very good question because I covered Kevin Byard out in Tennessee. Kevin Byard, of course, led the NFL in interceptions coming out of nowhere. And I think that's a really great comparison. I think both players, Xavien Howard and Kevin Byard, are both ascending players who are going to be elite in their position if they're not already. And I think that's a perfect comparison, Lewis, that I would say. Obviously, Kevin Byard plays safety, but I think that, Xavien Howard's going to get that sort of recognition this offseason. Deion Sanders famously said, "Who was that?" in reference to Kevin Byard, and Kevin Byard took that to the next level. So I think that Xavien Howard and Kevin Byard is a very good comparison. And finally, let's go ahead and get my X Factors, and we'll go ahead and get out of here and let you guys enjoy the week. Number one X Factor, Torrey McTyer. He's probably going to end up starting in place of Xavien Howard this week, or he's going to play a lot more in place of Xavien Howard with Bobby McCain starting. It's time for him to show up. He got burned a little bit early in the season and got really kind of exposed. So the coaches have said that he's looked better this week. It's time for him to show up and show what he can do. So I think Torrey McTyer is one of my X Factors. Number two X Factor is Kalen Ballage. It's 10 years ago the Dolphins unleashed the Wildcat on this Patriots team with a lot of success, and Kalen Ballage has run it with some moderate success here and there this season. I don't necessarily think it has to be a reincarnation of the Wildcat, but I'd love to see Kalen Ballage getting a lot of touches in the run game and the passing game. I think that he truly can be an X factor in this game. And number three, Travis Swanson. Travis Swanson is going to return this week as a center in the interior offensive line. We're going to have Ted Larson probably playing at left guard because Jake Brindle got re-injured. They're going to have to figure out a way to control the Patriots in the middle, and it's going to start with Travis Swanson. So he's my third X factor. So Lewis asked for my prediction for tonight. The Titans and the Texans are playing. I think the Texans are going to win that AFC South, and I think they win tonight. So last question from Philip Alzamaro. And then I'll go ahead and bounce out of here. Thank you guys as always for joining me. Subscribe to my page. Share with your fans. Share with all your Dolphins fans and people, and let's grow this to the next level. Lewis and Felipe have always been people who watch the show all the time. So I thank you guys for coming back every week. But Felipe is asking, "What's up, Cam? Love the article about building around Howard. Really hope we do and the right thing and pay the man before it becomes summer drama." Agree. I talked about that earlier, so I'll just leave it out on that note. He obviously has one more year after this year, but you want to get deals like that done early. So that's my thoughts on Xavien. That's my thoughts on Patriots week. So hope you guys enjoyed the game, and I'll see you back here next week. Thanks all.